Hello everybody. So in the last class we have discussed about the theory of interference, and we have been discussing about the interference by the division of wavefront, and here we are through the examples of interference through the division of wavefront. And basically we are having two regions to study, that is Fresnel biprism and Fresnel's two mirror arrangement. So in this class we are going to discuss Fresnel biprism. Like, it is a very frequently asked question for the university exams. Like, you have to describe the Fresnel biprism, the method by which we obtain the wavelength of light using Fresnel biprism. If you just go through the previous year's question papers and all, you can see that one. This question is frequently asked. So it is again another important essay question from this portion. What is a biprism? So we'll go through our class. Fresnel means the name of the physicist. It is a very simple arrangement which was devised by Fresnel to produce the interference pattern by the division of wavefront, and this is called Fresnel biprism. And biprism means it normally, from the name itself, it is understood that two prisms. A biprism consists of combination of two acute angle prism placed base to base. And if you are having two prisms, and suppose this is the base of the prism such that they are placed base to base, the bases of both the prisms are touching each other. And the obtuse angle means angle greater than 90 degree, and the obtuse angle of the biprism is 179 degrees, and this one is the obtuse angle of the biprism, and it is 179 degrees. And the two acute angles, the total angle 180, means that the two acute angles will be 30 minutes each. Okay, so the Fresnel biprism consists of two prisms of very small refracting angles, that is 30 minutes. The refracting angles of the biprism is 30 minutes each, and they are placed base to base such that the obtuse angle of the prism is 179 degrees. Okay, so we'll move to the experimental arrangement that I can discuss it here. Okay, experimental arrangement, and so we are going to discuss the experimental arrangement of Fresnel biprism, and we are discussing the interference pattern produced due to Fresnel biprism. So normally we need a biprism. Okay, so we'll draw a biprism first. So this is the biprism. Okay, this is the biprism, and we need a slit, and the slit is illuminated. From the slit we are getting a monochromatic source of light. So I'll keep a slit, or the source of light, I'll keep it here. Let S be the source of light. Okay, let S be the source of light. S be the source of light. I'll keep it here. S be the source of light. So the light from S is made to fall symmetrically on the biprism P, and P is the name of the biprism, right? P is the name of the biprism. Placed with its refracting edge parallel to the slit. When light falls on the biprism, each half of it. So we are going to discuss that one. How we'll get the virtual images of the source when light falls on the biprism. Okay, so we are going to discuss. Normally S is the source of light. So we'll get I'm having a ray hit at one of the portion of the biprism, another ray hitting on the symmetrically opposite end. Okay, this is the prism here. One more thing I'll have to draw. There is a screen kept here. This is the screen. Okay, this is the screen kept in front of the biprism, and I'll name it as S screen. Okay, I'll name it as screen. Okay, screen. This is the screen. So when light falls, what happens is that when reaches the biprism, it almost makes the parallel rays to hit the screen. So you'll get something like this way. Okay, I can mention the ray path is this is the ray path. This is the ray path. Okay. Okay, you draw along with me. Now there are two virtual sources. I'll draw the virtual sources first, then only you can draw the figure correctly. Okay, and I'll explain what's happening. Here I'm having a virtual source S1, and here I'm having a virtual source S2, and light from the source it okay, I'm drawing it like this way and I'll explain it to you later. Okay, the light from the next source. And I'm having this to touch here almost. I'm having this to touch here. And then I can draw it like this way. I can draw it like this way. Okay. So you can look at this one. So these are the two rays. The first rays, just listen to me. So this is the first ray path from the source, and source is emitting a monochromatic source. It is a monochromatic source, means it produces only a single wavelength. And the first wavelength or the first ray hitting the prism is this one, and it once it reaches hit the prism, it undergoes refraction, and it means hit the point at this point on the screen. The second ray is having a path like this way. Okay, and this is the third ray from the source. This is the third ray. I can show it to you, the ray path, and this is the third ray. Sorry, this is the third ray. And you can see the ray path. Once it hits the prism, it takes a deviated path in this direction, and I can draw the ray path like this way. And this is the fourth ray. This is the fourth ray, and when it hits the prism, it takes a path like this way to reach the screen, and this is the ray path. Okay, and for a person who is standing from here, he's have a feeling that these are the rays. This is the ray which is actually coming from this source S1, and this is also the ray coming from the source S1 if you are extrapolating to a source S1. And similarly, for a person standing here and looking, he'll be having a feeling that this is the ray which is coming from the source S2, and this also is the ray which is coming from the source S2. Okay, so naturally we'll be having two virtual sources here. These are the virtual sources S1 and S2, and these sources S1 and S2 act as the coherent sources produced by the source S. S1 and S2 are the like coherent sources produced by the initial parent source S. So normally what happens? The light produces an interference pattern in the region EF. In the region EF, the interference pattern will be produced. Okay, this is that region. I can show you. In this region, you can observe the interference pattern. It is for the sake of your understanding. You're drawing this. This is the region you can observe that. In this region, both the lights interferes, and you can see the interference pattern. Okay, and the center of the screen is, I can mark the center of the screen. Sorry, I can mark the center of the screen as O. Okay, so the distance between the two virtual sources S1 and S2 is named as small letter d, and again I'm having the distance between the source and the prism. This distance I can say this distance from the source to the biprism. Okay, and this distance, sorry, this distance from source to the biprism, and this distance is A, and the distance from the source to the screen, distance from the source to the screen is from here to here, and that distance is capital D. Okay, that distance is capital D, and this distance is small d. This distance is A, and this is the refracting angle of the prism, which is very small, and this is 30 minutes since it is a bright prism, and this will name as alpha, and alpha is equal to 30 minutes, and the obtuse angle of the prism is 179 degree, that you know, and this is 30 minutes. Okay, so these are the things, and you can see the interference pattern in the region EF. Okay, and the light from the two virtual sources S1 and S2 derived from the same source S act as the coherent sources, and they superimpose to obtain the dark and bright interferent fringes of equal width in the overlapping region EF. Okay, and normally in the actual experiment, the fringes are observed through the eyepiece. Okay. So hope it is clear for you. Hope this is the biprism arrangement so as to obtain the interference pattern on the screen. Hope this is clear for you. And okay, and if the distance between the sources S1 and S2 is D, and capital D is the distance between the sources and the screen, and suppose lambda is the wavelength of the light used, then we know if expression that is very much familiar for you, that is the fringe width that you've studied in your +2 classes, the expression for fringe width beta, that is the like the width of the pattern obtained in the region EF, that is the fringe width, and beta is equal to lambda d by d. Beta is equal to lambda d by d. So the next question is how you going to determine the wavelength of the light, that is wavelength of the source of light, which is a monochromatic source of light, using the biprism. Okay, and basically experimentally biprism is used for obtaining the wavelength of an unknown source of light. Okay, Fresnel biprism can be used to determine the wavelength of a given source of monochromatic that is single wavelength light, and the expression is from that equation we'll obtain the expression for lambda is equal to beta d by d. Okay, so for that we need an experimental arrangement, that is in the labs and all, how you going to determine the wavelength of light using Fresnel biprism, right? Okay, so we'll discuss it again. Okay, this is how here we are going to discuss how we are going to obtain the wavelength of an unknown source of light using Fresnel biprism arrangement. And the experimental arrangement consists of a long metallic base which is fitted with 4 adjustable uprights. Okay, for that I'll discuss that one. For every sort of optical experiments, first thing we need is an optical bench. Okay, this is the optical bench. Okay, it is because for optical experiments, any important parameter that we'll have to take into consideration is the leveling. While doing the spectrometer and all, if our leveling of the spectrometer table is not clear, or the base of the spectrometer is not clear, we are not going to get the spectrum at any cost. So for doing the light experiments or optical experiments or photonic experiments, the important thing first we'll have to make the adjustment of the optical bench. So this optical bench, and this is the optical bench, and it will be having some adjustable screws, like optical bench will be having some, here you'll be having some adjustable screws like this way. I can draw. There will be some screws here. You can adjust this screws. Okay, so I'm going to name that one. I'm going to name that one. This is the I'm going to name it optical bench, and here you'll be having adjustable screws which helps us in leveling, right? And again we'll have to keep all these things. What all things are needed? We need a source of light, we need a biprism, we need a screen, we need lenses and all for adjusting the image. Okay, so for holding that all these optical devices, we need uprights, right? It is called as uprights, which helps us in holding these optical devices. So first upright, I'll keep it here. The first upright, the first upright is I need a slit. This is the first upright, and this is the second. Okay, this will do. Second upright, and this is the third upright. This is the fourth upright, and this is the fifth upright, right? Fifth upright. Okay, so first thing needed is we need a monochromatic, and before that these uprights can be rotated in their own plane by means of some rack and pinion arrangement, so that the slit and the edge of the prism can be made parallel. All these optical instruments or optical elements that is hold in this uprights have to be made parallel, and for that I can adjust this upright. The height of the upright can be adjusted under the optical bench, so that we can adjust the height and all. The upright too. This is the first upright and this is the second upright can be moved, and I can name this upright, and there won't be any confusion, right? I'll name it. This is the first upright, and this is the second upright. This is the third upright, and this upright is used for holding the lens, and the lens can take different positions, right? So I'll name it as third upright, right? And this third upright can take positions from here to here, right? So I'm not naming it this as fourth, but instead my fourth upright is this one. This is my fourth upright, right? This is my fourth upright. Okay. So upright 2 can be moved horizontally, and upright 1 is used for holding the slit. Upright 2 for holding the prism, which can be moved along this direction so as to get an image on the screen. And upright 3 is used for carrying the lens, and upright 3 can take position from here to here. So both these uprights can be named as 3, and since it is used for holding the lens, and upright 4 is used for holding the eyepiece, right? And upright 4 holds the micrometer eyepiece. The optical lens is provided with leveling screws, and we adjust this screws to ensure that everything is leveled. So to start the experiment, we are having a source of light here. We are having a source of light. We are having a source of okay, we are having a source of light. It is a monochromatic source of light, and I can name my monochromatic source of light as S. This is a monochromatic source of light, and the light from the source hits the light from the source. I'll have to make it a little bigger. This is my source of light, and here I'm having, I have to draw my optical. Here I'm having the slit first folded by the first upright, and here again I'm having the biprism. Okay, and here I'll draw the lens. Okay, I'll draw the lens here, and here I'm having the eyepiece. I'm having the micrometer eyepiece. So I'll draw something like this vendor. No need to bother. Here I'm having the micrometer eyepiece, right? So light from the monochromatic source reaches the passes through the slit, and you can adjust the position of the biprism so that we can get the pattern on the micrometer eyepiece. Okay, this is what's happening. So to start the experiment, the optical benches experiment starting, I'll discuss each of the points in detail. Right, the optical bench is leveled horizontally, and it is provided with the leveling screws fitted in the bench, and the eyepiece is focused on the crosswires, and eyepiece is focused on the crosswires. Like we are having eyepiece here, and it will be having crosswires, and the crosswires will keep it while doing the spectrometer experiment and all. We'll check out whether our crosswires are vertical, and we are having the slit here, and I can name all of the things. Here I'm having the slit here. This one is a monochromatic source. This is the source, and here I'm having the biprism, and here I'm having the lens. This is also the lens, and this lens is used for determining the distance between the virtual sources, and here I'm having the eyepiece, microscope eyepiece. Okay, so to start with the experiment, the slit is illuminated by the monochromatic source of wavelength lambda, whose wavelength is to be determined, and the slit is made very much vertical, and you can adjust the biprism such that you can observe the interference pattern through the microscope eyepiece of the microscope, and if the fringes are not clear or it is not seen, and the biprism could be rotated, and it could be position could be changed horizontally so as to obtain the interference pattern through the eyepiece. And we have to adjust the slit and the edge of the biprism along the length of the bench. This adjustment is complete. When this adjustment is complete, you can move the eyepiece towards or away from the biprism so that you can see the shift in the fringes. And okay, so now you can take the observations. So this is what's happening here. We have not discussed the lenses here, and in the first stage of the experiment, for getting the interference pattern, we need not use the lenses, and for some sort of focusing, if needed, you can place one of the lenses here. Okay, so that's all. So you'll get the interference pattern, and this how you going to determine the fringe width from this interference pattern, and you what you'll be getting will be the fringes of equal width, and there will be dark and bright fringes. Okay, so you'll be getting, when we are looking through the eyepiece, you can see fringes of this sort. Okay, they will be very close together, and what I'm drawing is the dark fringe, and in between the dark region, white space is the bright fringe. Okay, so what we'll do is you'll be having a number of fringes like this way. Okay, so okay, they will be having equal distance. Okay, so don't bother. So what we'll be doing is we'll keep our crosswire while looking through the you can see the crosswire here, so we'll keep the crosswire. This will be the crosswire. Okay, we'll keep the crosswire on first fringe, and we'll note the reading as x0. Okay, we'll note the reading as x0. So this will be the first reading, x0. Then I'll move to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ninth fringe. I'll move to the ninth fringe, and I'll again keep my crosswire. So this will be what? xn. Or I can name, okay, sorry. So I can name it as x9. x9. So what will be beta, or fringe width? Our fringe width will be what? Width of one fringe. It will be x9 minus x0 will give you the width of 9 fringes. So divided by 9 gives you the width of one fringe. That's all, right? So this will be the first one, x0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, this is the 8th one, right? So I'll name it as 8, and 8. This is also 8, right? This is 8, okay? This is 8. x8 minus x0 divided by 8. So this is the x0th, and this is the xn. x0 I need not include. Okay. So this is how you're going to get, this is the first part of the experiment. After doing all these arrangements, you can obtain the fringe width in this manner. So our intention is to find out lambda, and you can obtain lambda from the equation beta d by d. So you have obtained beta. And what is capital D? This is the distance between the source and the screen is capital D. Distance between source and the screen. So this region is capital D. You can obtain capital D by just measuring the distance between the source and the screen. Okay, this region, this is capital D. There is no confusion in that one. This is capital D. So you have obtained beta, you have obtained capital D, and the expression for our fringe width is wavelength, lambda is equal to beta d by d. So we have to find out what is small d, and that small d is the distance between these two virtual sources that you can't see directly, right? Okay, so for that one, for measuring small d, what you're going to do? It is the distance between the two virtual sources. So to measure the separation between the two virtual sources, d, what you have to do? We have to keep a convex lens. This is a convex lens of short focal length, is placed on the upright 3, and it is between the biprism and the eyepiece. Now the lens is brought very close. This lens is brought very close to the biprism, such that you can see, while looking through the eyepiece, you can see some images S1 and S2. The two images of this source could be obtained if you're keeping the lens very close to the biprism. And that length of the biprism, I can name that length of the biprism. I mean, that position of the lens as L1. Similarly, if we are moving this lens, that is the third upright is moved very close to the eyepiece, you can observe another two real images, and I can name that position of the upright as L2. Okay, and while the lens is at the position L1, you can see two real images of the source S1 and S2, and at this position the distance between these two images is measured as D1, right? It is measured as D1. It is measured as D1, and at this position of this lens L2, you can observe again two images, I mean two real images of the source, which is assumed to be the virtual source, and I can name it as D2. And from this D1 and D2, you can obtain, and no need of going to the physics of that and all, you can obtain the distance D between the virtual sources. D is equal to, I can tell that it is root of D1, D2. Root of D1, D2. Okay. So you have obtained beta, you have obtained capital D, you have also obtained small d. And from these three parameters, you can obtain the wavelength of an unknown source of light. Okay. This is how we are going to determine the wavelength of unknown source of light. And if you are looking this, I can say that here I am having an angle. I'm having an angle theta, right? This angle is theta. So normally this angle also will be what? Theta. You're having two angles theta, and this distance is A and this distance is D. So normally I can write angle is equal to, this is the angle, this is the arc, and this is the radius. Angle theta is equal to, what you'll get? Angle theta is equal to arc is small d and radius is A. Okay, arc is small d and radius is A. Right. And since the refracting angle is what? Of the biprism alpha is equal to 30 minutes and it is very small, the deviation produced in the ray path also is very small when it passes through the biprism. And normally the deviation produced is represented by the notation. The deviation produced is represented by the notation delta, and you have an expression for delta which you may have studied earlier. Delta is generally expressed as delta, the deviation produced in a ray path when it passes through a medium of refractive index mu with a refracting angle alpha is written like this way. Delta is equal to mu minus 1 into alpha. Right. And here our theta will be equal to, in this condition we are having our theta is equal to 2 times delta. 2 times delta. Right. Theta is equal to 2 times delta. And from this I can write D is equal to theta into A. Right. Instead of theta I can write 2 delta. So I'll get an expression for D to be D is equal to theta into A. Theta is equal to 2 delta. So it is 2 delta into A. And what is delta? delta is what? Mu minus 1, 2 into mu minus 1 into alpha into A. Okay. 2A into mu minus 1 into alpha. And again, this is a very important result which is frequently asked. This result is frequently used for doing problems and all. That is, if we know the refractive index of the medium, if you know the refracting angle of the biprism, and if you know the distance between source and the biprism, the distance between the two coherent sources is obtained like this way. D is equal to 2 into mu minus 1 alpha into A. So you just note it down, you just put it in square bracket. While dealing with the problems of this part, this equation is very important. Okay, hope it is clear for you, and you can see the leveling screws and all, and how you're going to measure D is equal to root of D1 D2, and similarly this is the expression D is equal to 2A into mu minus 1 into alpha. So while so far we have discussed about the source to be, or the source that we have used is a monochromatic source of light. Instead, if you are using a white light, if white light is used to illuminate the slit in place of the monochromatic light, then what happens? There will be central white fringe, because for the central point the path difference for all rays coming will be almost zero. They travel the equal path. For all other points other than the central point, what happens? Wavelength of different colors. Since it is not a monochromatic source, it will be a white source, means it will emanate different rays of different wavelength. And what happens is that mu depends upon, the refractive index depends upon lambda. Okay, and mu depends upon lambda. When lambda changes, mu changes. When mu changes, distance between these two coherent sources changes, and everything changes. And what happens is that on either side of the central white fringe, we will get a fringe of mixed colors, since we are having what? A white light. Okay, hope that is clear. When white light is used, what is the change in the indifference pattern observed? So, while dealing with some of the problems, so I'll read out the question, just write it down in your notebook. Fresnel biprism of refracting index 1.5 has a refracting angle 1 degree. If the biprism is kept at a distance of 0.3 meter from the slit. Okay, so the distance that we have obtained is A. By a monochromatic source of wavelength 6000 Armstrong. You have to find the fringe width. So first we know, and D is given to be 8 meters. First we know the equation for fringe width. Beta is equal to lambda D by D. Lambda is given in the question, it is 6000 Armstrong. Capital D is given to be 8 meter. And what you have to find is small d. And we have an expression for small d. It is 2a mu minus 1 into alpha. And what is A? A is 0.3 meters. And the refractive index given is 1.5. And alpha is given to be 1 degree. 1 degree means you will have to convert it into radians. 1 degree is what? 2 pi by 360 or pi by 180 radians. So it is substituted here. You will get D as pi by 600, and from that you will obtain the fringe width to be 0.917 millimeter. It is extremely small fringe width. So the next question is, a Fresnel biprism arrangement is set up with sodium light of wavelength 589 nanometer, and you can see 62 fringes. And how many fringes shall we get if we replace the source by a green light of wavelength 546 nanometer? And you know that from the expression beta is equal to lambda d by d, beta is proportional to lambda. So normally I can write beta 1 by beta 2 is lambda 1 by lambda 2. So what happens? Width of one fringe is beta 1. Suppose there are having n fringes, the total width of the field of view that is given here. The sodium light, and in the field of view of the eyepiece we will get 62 fringes. So total width will be n1 beta 1. And for the next source having 546 or 5461 angstrom, there will be n2 number of fringes, and the width of the field of view will be n2 beta 2. First one will be n1 beta 1, and the width of the field of view won't change. So from that I can write n1 beta 1 is equal to n2 beta 2. n1 beta 1 is equal to n2 beta 2. From that I can write beta 1 by beta 2 is equal to n2 by n1. And instead of beta 1 by beta 2, I can write lambda 1 by lambda 2 is equal to n2 n1, since n1 beta 1 is equal to n2 beta 2. From that I can find out n2. n2 will be approximately equal to lambda 1 by lambda 2 into n1, which will be 67. So it is another way of dealing with this problem. Another question is, okay, here the interference fringes are produced by a Fresnel biprism in the focal plane of a microscope, which is at 100 centimeter, that is capital D. 100 centimeter, that is equal to 1 meter. A lens is placed between the biprism and the microscope such that we get two positions of, if the image of the slit are, so if we can get two position for the lens, so as to get the distance between the real images will be 4.05 millimeter and 2.90 millimeter. That we have discussed for the that is the D1 position and D2th position. So the wavelength of light is given and we have to find out the fringe width. Basically the expression for fringe width is lambda d by d, lambda d by d, and you will have to find out lambda is given, d is given. We have to find out d here, and d could be obtained as root of d1 into d2. And it is given in millimeter, you will have to convert it into meter and you will get an answer, and substituting that answer you got the fringe width as 1.72 into 10 raised to minus 4 meter, or I can write it as 0.172 millimeters. 0.172 millimeters. So we have discussed three problems. You have discussed Fresnel biprism arrangement, how you are going to get the fringe width, how we are going to get the wavelength of an unknown source of light, what happens when we use white light, and we have got the two important expression for small d to be root of d1 d2, or d is equal to 2a into mu minus 1 into alpha. So these are the important things while dealing with this portion. So in the next class we will discuss the Fresnel two mirror arrangement and some of the problems, and we will wind up the class, and with this we will finish the interference by division of wavefront. Next we will discuss the interference by division of amplitude, then diffraction, Fresnel diffraction and Fraunhofer diffraction. Okay, if you have any doubts you can come to me. So thank you.